welcome. You're watching My India, My Life Goals, a campaign which witnesses the TV9 network in collaboration with the Union Ministry for Culture of India. Now, and as part of this campaign, we are creating an awareness drive for the citizens of India to both follow and achieve their life goals. And by that, we mean the LIFE, or Lifestyle for Environment Goals, as coined by our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Now, as citizens, we always talk about our fundamental rights all the time. But we don't spend enough time talking about our fundamental duties. And in fact, there are 11 of them. And as part of this My India, My Life Goals campaign, we here at TV9 Network are conducting a series of webinars, conversations, which we're calling it the TV9 Digital Baitak, in which we will be discussing how citizens, as they keep a track of their rights, should also keep a track of their duties to the country. In fact, there are 11 fundamental duties of every citizen, and one of them is caring for and protecting natural environment. And in this TV9 Digital Baitak, that's what we will be taking up. The theme for this Baitak is caring for nature is integral to Bharat's culture. And as part of this Baitak, we're being joined by Priyanka Chandra, Director, Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav Division, or ACAM Division, Ministry of Culture, Government of India. Dr. Professor Vinod Tare, founding Center for Ganga River Basin Management and Studies, led by IIT Kanpur. And we also have Dr. Professor Yutika Mishra, historian from Delhi University. And Shantanu Gupta, author and TEDx speaker, also joining us. Thank you once again to all of you for taking time out to be with us here on this TV9 Digital Baitak. And we begin with Priyanka Chandra. Talk to us, in terms of Bharat's culture, there was a significant shift post-colonization. But before colonization, it was Bharat and Bharat's civilization that was teaching the world how to care for and protect the environment. Talk to us, from the civilization that we are, the Bharat civilization that we are, what were we doing so right at one point in time? If you can give us with some specific cultural references.
Namaskar, everyone. As you said, in India, we are the nature lovers. We worship our rivers. We worship different trees. All our festivals are associated with the nature itself. Pick up any festival, let it be Basant Panchami or Makar Sankranti, Pongal. Everywhere, somehow the other way, we are connected with the nature. We were connected with the nature. We are still connected with the nature. Yes, with urbanization and increased consumerism, our a bit shift is there. But as you mentioned in the beginning about the life, from last 1.5 years, we are seeing a lot of shift under the life campaign. We are creating a lot of awareness campaigns in the schools, in the colleges. You will be seeing kids are doing a lot of projects, programs about the afforestation, water conservation, and focuses again on saving the nature, going back to our roots.
Right. If I were to follow up and ask you, tell us how has modernization and urbanization impacted the traditional Bharatiya values, Indian values of caring for the environment, Priyanka Chandraji?
We all know how urbanization, everything is impacted, especially the plastics. But we are doing a lot of campaigns under Life Mission, Say No to Plastic, about afforestation, water harvesting, how these urbanized, the recent floods in the Delhi is another example. This urbanization has led to overflooding. All these issues are there these days. So under Life Mission, we are going back to our roots again, educating people, spreading awareness campaigns to get back to our roots so that we can conserve and preserve the nature.
Right. Also tell us, in terms of, doing this, the benefits that we do get of sort of reintegrating ourselves with the environment, with nature around us.
without nature, how we are going to survive? Our survival is dependent upon the nature. It's we who have to take the care of the nature for us, for coming future generations. So these days, you will be seeing kids. They are highly educated in the schools, in the colleges. Youth are taking a lot of awareness campaigns. Many places we see youth is coming forward and doing a lot of cleanliness. They are taking cleanliness missions, campaigns. They're cleaning the rivers. It's so heartening to see so much of youth. It's heartening to see that youngsters are getting associated so that we take care of our nature. If we take care of nature, then only we can have a better and a bright future.
Right. Of course, if we take care of nature, nature will take care of us. So stay with us. We also have Dr. Professor Vinod Tare, founding head, Center for Ganga River Basin Management and Studies, joining us. Dr. Professor Vinod Tare, tell us, we really lost something in those years of colonization, and now it's up to us to get back to our original Bharatiya ways of caring for and protecting our environment.
Caring for our nature and environment is part of our lifestyle, has been part of our lifestyle. But slowly and slowly, we probably tend to forget the value of it. Okay, like if I have to quote in a very lighter way, I think in the last 50, 60 years, in the name of development, what we probably have learned is we used to eat inside and defecate outside. I think what the progress has told us is defecate inside and eat outside. Now, if you want to do that, obviously you have to be ready for that and you have to follow the kind of discipline that is required. Okay. Now, the question is we, of course, have to use the modern science and technology, but not forget the traditional knowledge, ancient knowledge, and the wisdom that is given to us. And it was part of our life. Even now, it is a part of life. All our festivals, as was mentioned, like for example, in all our god and goddess, we either see their vehicles as some animals, whether it is rat to elephant to lion to whatever. Now, if we worship them, obviously we will protect them, right? And everybody cannot understand the importance of protection, but that is related to our faith. So I think that's a very, very important tool for us as part of our culture, having faith in something, right? Similarly, for example, today, if I give another example, why are we worried that I don't want to drink water, which I open the tap and I fill up my glass and I don't want to drink that. Instead, I rely more on bottled water or mineral water because I am worried about something in that tap of water, right? And what is that something? It is somebody somewhere defecated, and I am afraid that it is there, it has come in that glass of water. So if we care for that, so like as a part of our lifestyle, if I plan every day to fill up my stomach, if everybody also starts thinking about that I have to empty my stomach also, and I should plan for that also, and that unfortunately we leave it to the government or somebody else. So I think these are some of the systems which we have to, they were part of our education, part of our culture, and I think we have to re-emphasize that no matter how much development we do, no matter how much science and technology we bring in, it is important that we also have those values. And this is where I feel India has a great chance that our traditional values, our cultural values are so high. And in times to come, if we are talking about sustainable development, just science and technology is not going to solve our problems. It's integration of science, technology with our faith, with our culture, with our tradition. That is what is going to make us sustainable. And I'll elaborate as and when it comes to other issues. But I think this is the initial point that I would like to, that we can show to the rest of the world why and how we can lead because we are the only Kaprali country who is very strong in science and technology. We are in a position to now go to the moon. At the same time, we have lot of cultural, ethical, and also the spiritual values. And the integration of this is what is going to, help us in making sure that we have sustainable development and lead the world effort in achieving our sustainable development goals.
Right. Stay with us, Priyanka Chandraji. He's making a very important point over there. Talk to us about how we can now integrate Bharat's culture into creating more awareness about environment protection, and also in terms of what we need to do in the form of education to educate people to be more aware of the environment.
Under Life Mission, we have undertaken a lot of activities, beginning from say no to plastics on our social media pages and many other campaigns. You will see a small video here of Prakriti. Prakriti is the mascot for Life Mission. Educating how to say no to plastics, how people can carry the bags to the shopping malls and all. What can be healthy alternatives for plastics? Afforestation, how to save water, and how to save nature. A lot of activities are undertaken under the Life Mission to educate people, starting from the schools. So a lot of activities are taking place at the school level. A lot of awareness campaigns are being undertaken under the Life Mission.
Right.
And we are getting very good response for this.
Right. Right. And also, how can people, if I were to ask you, from the director of, Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav division of the Ministry of Culture for Government of India, how can people contribute to it? How can individuals and communities in Bharat engage in everyday actions to protect the environment?
The actions have to be, it has to be in community level only, individual level and community both. If each, like Pradhan Mantri ji always talks about the Amrit Kal, what is our vision for 2047? If each and every individual takes one, a kind of pledge, oath, or a sankalp, how they want to see their country at 2047, starting from either planting a simple tree, how to save the nature, using electricity, using green means of saving fuel. Small activities have getting started at the individual level. It will turn into a mass movement. It has to start at the individual and the community level.
Right, and also, if you can tell us, the fact that this is coined by Prime Minister Modi ji, lifestyle for environment. How do you see this lifestyle for environment and life goals inspiring global efforts towards environment protection?
India has been a major contributor in the world economy also. At the same time, we are contributing to the science and technology. Every place India is taking a lead. So we cannot be left behind in the conservation of the nature. Same time, we are taking a lead in this, spreading a lot of awareness about the moving towards a greener future, cleaner and greener future, cleaner and greener environment. So India is taking a lead in this also at under our able leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister. We are presenting India at various global levels, and we are taking a lead in this also.
Right. Right. Let me also bring in now Dr. Professor Yutika Mishra and Shantanu Gupta, who are patiently standing by on this discussion. Dr. Professor Yutika Mishra, tell us, historically speaking, where we were absolutely getting it right for a long period of time, and now it's as if we're getting back to what we had lost in the in-between years.
As we have been talking about India's intrinsic, this whole concept of environment is intrinsic to our civilization and our civilizational value, as ma'am also said. And somehow down the line, we have lost it. Now, where we lost it? Because when we look at our civilization, our ancient past, it's full of, whether you look at the people tree, you look at tulsi, these things are the banyan tree. We have ample evidence that these were revered, and not just they were revered, not because just for the sake of reverence, but they had qualities. There were today it's proved they are scientifically useful plants. That is one point, and how in Indian culture this is inherent. So we had a one-to-one relationship with nature, if I can say so. One-to-one in the sense it was an organic relationship. जिसे हम कहते हैं जैविक संबंध with the nature, with the environment. Now, what happened down the line? As ma'am also emphasized that this modernization, commercialization. But where did it come from? So we had this colonial section in between. We have a very massive colonial past, more than 250 years of colonization, where the British, when they started interacting with Indian resources, the forest took the major bashing, and they immediately, as early as 1865, they created, so that was the first Indian Forest Act, where they started controlling Indian forests and Indian resources and making rules, and the tribals were at the receiving end. See, we also have to understand what the British failed to understand, or they didn't want to understand. That's another idea. So they prohibited tribals from entering the forests. So the tribals had as I said, an organic relationship with the forest. They were partaking of the forests at the same time. They were preserving forests. We have to understand, and they were so closely in touch with the forest. Now, with the coming of the British policies in India, it became an exploitative policy in nature, and the rules and regulations. So they started reserved forests, the concept of reserved forests. You cannot go, only we can go, because we can cut the forests. That was the idea they started partaking of. Now, another thing that the British did was using the Indian wealth, natural wealth, for their own purpose, for their own commercial, industrial purposes. As we all know, industrialization had started. And that is where the Indian natural wealth started taking a bashing. It became so exploitative that the colonial policy, that the Indian wood was being cut for sleepers, for railways, building railways, for ships, for Indian plantations. Those plantations we see today as we think it was great. No, but they were just somewhere or the other, they were just planted there without even looking at the environment, whether it was like tea plantations. We have an example. Right. Indian cotton, jute, these were taking a bashing, and this whole natural wealth was being exploited. Somehow, this whole race for a materialistic civilization, in this race, our spiritual culture, in which the rivers were revered, water, forest wealth, the air we breathe, the trees, the plants, all this natural wealth with which we lived, which was life. Our Vedas talk about that. Rig Veda talks about the earth as a mother. Atharva Veda talks of I am the son of the earth. We have shlokas full there if you care to look at them. Now, these things were so ingrained, inherent in our culture, that even today, whatever we try, however much we try to shrug off that, we are materialistic, we are consumerist, still every household has a tulsi plant, every household believes in the tree, the people tree, which has medicinal. Even the children know, how it provides oxygen, what are the medicinal values, how the animals, they coexist. And it's so, in the Indian culture, the whole idea of an ecosystem, where everyone is linked to the other, existed. And that's what we are trying to do today. And that's what we have to, when the Honorable Prime Minister said life, the lifestyle for environment, that's where we have to, that's the Indian knowledge system that he is indicating there. We have to partake. So that's what we have to do now, and we are doing, and we have been doing. So this is nothing new. In fact, it was the West, which just undid all this. So we have to come back to that.
Very true, very true. Mr. Shantanu Gupta, if I can bring you in at this stage, we are doing something which we were always doing, but it's not easy right now, is it, to go back to the way we were pre-colonization?
So yeah, you're certainly right. It's not easy to go back. But I recall in COP26 when Boris Johnson, when Prime Minister Narendra Modi was there, and Boris Johnson made a very bold statement: one sun, one word, one grid, and one Narendra Modi. I think that communicates a lot of things, right? That the one sun was there from like ever, right? And one word, one grid. But now I think he emphasized that what is the importance of a leadership, right? And we have seen in last 9 years there are a lot of things that we have done as a country, which are leadership led, right? Like Prime Minister says, do you want to stop your subsidy? And a lot of and thousands and lakhs of people stop their subsidy, and that subsidy is translated into a gas stove for lakhs and lakhs of people over burning wood, right? Like I was talking to an expert, they were telling me cooking food for 3 times on wood is equal to smoking 100 cigarettes, right? And now lakhs and lakhs people are on the stove, right? So that leadership that's leading us from last 9 years has brought a lot of changes. Now our 2030 goals are like 500 gigawatts of installed capacity of renewable, and we are way there. That's why like the international leadership is calling something like one word, one sun, one grid, and one Narendra Modi. And in our daily lifestyle, these things are even urban lifestyles. It's coming very rapidly. So let's say a company like Ola, which was into a traditional cars, now they have sold 2.5 lakhs electric scooters in last 2 years, right? Whenever you just go to purchase a car, in every car showroom, every brand, they have an EV option, right? Which was not even a word like even 6 months, 8 months back. Someone like Nitin Gadkari ji is audacious enough on platform. He said, "I will make petrol irrelevant in a couple of years." Right? That's like I'm sure the petrol lobby is listening to it, and he's making sure that he say, "Okay, if the foreign companies are not coming, my boys, means the young entrepreneurs, will go ahead and make a new Tesla or make a new electric scooter." Right? The usage of solar was like a very elite thing. Now rooftop solar is a very very common thing in any new construction. So I know we cannot go back to exactly that way we were living, but now technology is helping. So earlier carpooling was a tough thing, but now with technology, carpooling become very easy. In fact, I'll come because I come from UP and right on UP. Whenever there is a tree plantation drive, Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath starts it with one Mahotsav, and he does the full puja the way it was done in one Mahotsav in ancient days, and then he started the tree plantation drive. And as a result, in the last 6 years, the forest cover of UP the tree cover of UP has increased by multiple percentages, right? So I think if we take concentrated technology used efforts, there are ways that we may not go back. I'm drinking water. I never use a plastic bottle. I'll make sure in 80-90% of the time I carry my own bottle and fill it up. So I think now these changes are coming up, and if we, the adults, lead it by example, I'm sure the kids will also follow.
Right, absolutely. Stay with us. We take this back to Priyanka Chandra ji, Director, Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav Division, Ministry of Culture, Government of India. Priyanka Chandra ji, going back is very important, and the government's support and the government's encouragement specifically for all life goals, including adopting renewable energy and using renewable energy for your daily needs as well. So it's been support from the government has been a crucial part in helping Indians, helping Bharat get back to its environmental protection ways.
Can you repeat, please? I've missed on that.
The support of government ministers, different ministries. You have Gadkari ji talking about renewable energy being the mainstay. All of these efforts. It's been a composite of efforts that have made Indians, that are helping Indians get back to the original Bharatiya ways of caring for and protecting the nature.
Under Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, the efforts were not only Culture Ministry or any one particular ministry creating the whole. Commemorating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav 75 years, it was a whole of government approach, where all the different ministries, states, union territories, then, we went up to the whole of society. Last year, under Har Ghar Tiranga, we have seen each and every individual, they came, they hosted the flag on their house or wherever it was possible. So, as you mentioned, it has to be a whole of society approach. It's not only Ministry of Culture, Ministry of Environment doing everything under life. For example, Ministry of Rural Development and its allied ministries have taken the project of Amrit Sarovar. where in every district, 75 Amrit Sarovars is supposed to be constructed for the conservation of water. And it gives me immense pleasure to tell that all these ministries, they have worked much ahead of their schedule, and before 15 August 2023 only, maximum of the districts, they have achieved the target. So in a small, little, big manner, every ministry, every state, every union territory, we are working towards the goals of the environment sustainability. And now under the Life Mission, our aim is to bring this to the grassroots level. As I mentioned in the beginning, it has to be an individual and community level exercise.
Right. We also have Dr. Professor Vinod Tare still with us. Dr. Professor Vinod Tare, if I can just extend that to you. There's so much efforts going on from across ministries at this stage, and similarly, people also have to start thinking about this fundamental duty of theirs towards caring for and protecting the environment, and start taking steps in a holistic way for the people of Bharat to get back to the Bharatiya ways of being one with nature.
One of the central theme which brings everything together is water, and I think much of the efforts of the government, and when I say government, number of ministries are involved in that, is they are worrying about water. And when they worry about water, on one side we have the mission that Har Ghar Mein Jal, Nal Se Jal. But then when we talk about that, it also means from where the water will come into the taps. That also means that you have to make sure that the water bodies are protected, right? And that is where the government has started the campaign, catch the rain where it falls, when it falls. That's a very important activity of the Ministry of Jal Shakti. It is only then that we can make sure that end of the monsoon, because we have monsoon for a very limited time. The number of rainy days in our country are only 30-40 days, and we get huge rain during that, but rest of the time we do not have water, right? So it is important for us that water that we get in 30-40 days is stored somewhere, be it in all the surface water bodies, like the madam mentioned about the Amrit Sarovar, or the natural water bodies that you have, or the rivers that we have, or even the drains that we have, right? Unfortunately, what has happened is all of us slowly have turned our back towards the drains and the rivers and the lakes or reservoirs because they have become dirty. So I think it is very important for us to make sure that we again turn our front towards all the water bodies. So if I can see them every time in front, then I also will care for it. Because if you care for that, then only your other sustainable activities can happen. And that's and this is what Prime Minister very on all forums very emphatically has been saying. Water has to be central to our economic development. And in COP26 meeting, he also talked about those Panchamrats and what is the pathway for India, to achieve our goals, what we are saying, how we can achieve, how it can be realistic. We are not just talking about it. And he also has given the kind of thing that how by protecting our rivers and water bodies, we can increase our contribution from water side into the GDP, and has given target that at least 3% increase should be there by protecting our rivers, water bodies, and so on and so forth into our economy. And this is again, as I said, first thing that we have to do is we make sure that every drain or every pond that is there in my front is not covered, is not encroached, is not polluted. And I think as a citizen, we only have to make sure that we contribute in our own way, whatever, but we also monitor that, isn't it? We also become the policing man, because government cannot employ so much police. Every citizen has to make sure that we protect our environment, we monitor our environment. Anybody doing anything wrong, we take care of it ourselves at our level only. So I think this has to be a part of our education system also. And whatever values that you are lost in school or colleges, I think we have to make sure that every day how it has come to our generation. Because every day in the assembly we used to talk, but unfortunately now I see that the assemblies are not there in the schools or colleges. Okay, so I think that is something that those values we need to make sure that we bring it back,
Right.
so that we care for the nature.
Right, we have to bring those values back. We will continue this TV9 digital Baitak, but for now we're going to thank Priyanka Chandra ji for taking time out to be with us. Priyanka Chandra, Director, Azadika Amrit Mahotsav Division, Ministry of Culture, Government of India. Thank you so much for taking time out to be with us. Now let me take this back to Dr. Professor Yutika Mishra. Dr. Professor Yutika Mishra, we had Dr. Professor Vinod Tare talking about inculcating these values at an early stage in school assemblies. That's very important, isn't it? If you want to trace back history and bring it back as part of modern day culture, it's important to inculcate it at the right time, or right place, at the earliest possible.
Absolutely, I totally agree. And not only in schools, as you all know, the NEP 2020, the new education policy that has come up, it has got so many elements of, our cultural past. It takes heavily from the Indian knowledge system. There are so many courses on environment and Indian knowledge system, Indian science in the ancient past. This is just the right time to learn from them. And I think the nature is crying for help. As we all know, the earth is under so much pressure. Things like, in the other ways, as I said, the Bhumi Sukta, which praises the earth for creating a balance. Things like the Athiratram, the 12-day yagya that is taken place everywhere, where the fire is, the yagya, the yagya happens, and the ablations are done, and people pray for the positive impact of environment on man. The positivity in man is besieged. Similarly, Surpala's Vriksha Ayurveda, it has all the knowledge of tree science, plant science. It also talks about agriculture. It talks about, how to take care of the soil. It talks about how various trees are planted, when, the details of the trees. As you know, we study botany today. All this knowledge was already there. Even Varamihir's Brihat Samhita, written in the 6th century, that has a chapter on the soil science and how agriculture is to be benefited. So why not use these texts instead of the Western texts, which we hardly understand at times, I must say.
Absolutely.
Similarly, yeah. I mean, we make a mockery of these things, and we have our knowledge absolutely with us. Sacred grove, the notion of the sacred grove is so popular all over India. The one Upavan, Pavitra one, the divine being, these are divine beings, the trees. That we have the idea of this Chipko Andolan. What was that Chipko? When we had the women hugging trees. So these were the women who knew that without the trees, without nature, we cannot survive. And you cannot cut trees blatantly. The Indian knowledge system and the Indian culture, Indian tradition also emphasizes on the limited use of nature and coexistence with nature, which all these texts which I just quoted, they talk about. Arthashastra, Kautilya's Arthashastra, talks about the duty of the king, the duty of administration to preserve and promote environmental welfare, to do whatever, like to build tapovans, to build abhayaranya, to for the people to live, to sit there, sanctuaries for animals and plants, where no one can touch them and no one can destroy them, so they can live abhayaranya. They can jahan wo vicharan karte hain aaram se without any bhay. So those are the notions. Similarly, conservation of water. Thus, as far back as the Dholavira, the Saraswati Sabhyata, which we also know as Harappa Sabhyata, they had techniques of conservation of water. The water tanks were constructed. See, they were constructed in the name of temples, but what do the temples do? They were not just mere places for prayer. They were very scientific places. They were full of life. All the life business would go on around the temple. You know, there was trading, there was meeting, social, this and that. Similarly, the Chola kings in Tamil Nadu, they created, and today we still have that the Kallanai Dam
Yes.
on the Kaveri River. So why not use that technique? And why this has that used to irrigate 30,000 hectares of land. You know, such vast land, which I think we can't imagine now.
And still
with
stands
modern-
strong, absolutely strong.
Yeah, stands strong. It's still there. That's the
Hundreds
best
of
part.
years old. You know, and
Yeah.
you have the dam collapses happening, you know, in modern day India, you know, which
Never
is such
collapsed.
a shame.
Yeah.
Right,
And never
and
happened.
bridge collapses happening. You know, it's an absolute shame. Shantanu Gupta, you know, one thing is that there is something very intrinsic about it, and it's about harnessing it going forward. But I also want to understand, you know, how do you manifest it in other ways, in all the modern ways, you know, that you're talking about. You know, all the history that Dr. Professor Yutika Mishra spoke about. You know, the way forward is all about technology. The way forward is about adoption of technology, and even to protect the environment, isn't it?
I think you're bang on. As Professor Yutika Mishra was saying, it was so lovely to hear so much history, and we keep hearing about. So I think environment protection that way, as Professor told, it comes very naturally to us, right? It's in our DNA, right? It's happening. It's happening from like time immemorial, right? She quoted multiple examples of ancient Bharat. Right now we have a modern lifestyle, but even today when we buy a new vehicle, a new bike, it first goes to a temple before coming to a house. And right, uh, right, it still happens, even in however fancy, however modern we'll become. So I'm saying currently I think we are a very interesting mixture of traditional and modern. And as more and more knowledge of the ancient past will come in the digital domain, like this dog, like this digital betting that you're doing, Krishna Kumarji. I think as more and more knowledge will come, new technologists will come and make sure that technology makes the usage of these principles far more easy. Give you a small example. So in UP, when I told you Yogi Adityanath starts every plantation drive with a large prayer, with a havan, right? And then he makes sure that every tree has a QR code so that anybody can go and see and report it to a portal that this tree is flourishing or not. It's not only planting a tree, it's making sure in the first 3-4 years when it is susceptible, right, it should be taken care. So I think you're right. Technology usage, be in the form of carbon credits or carbon footprints or calculating easily, or various ways, right, has to be brought on. Ancient knowledge should be come out in the digital domain, and technologists should come and make sure that this marriage can happen. Because that's the way in Corona time we have realized that ancient knowledge from Kara to Haldi, they become super popular more than the vaccines till the time vaccines came. And I think maybe the modern medicine people may not attribute it to it, but we all know that why Indians resisted Corona so bravely, because of a lot of our ancient food practices, daily lifestyle practices.
Right, and continuing with that thought, Dr. Professor Vinod Tare, you know, it held us in good stead during the pandemic, and it is going to hold us in good stead for all the challenges that the future is going to throw at us. This Bharatiya values of keeping it simple, of reducing. They say these three terms, you know, reduce, reuse, and recycle. We were doing it either way before anybody came up with that coinage.
Yes, I think, and this is what the concept of eco village that we talk about. Normally, when we plan anything, we say we want to develop it on the concept of eco village. Now, what is that concept of eco village? A village is eco friendly only when you have maximum of reduce, recycle, reuse. So at the village level, you will find that very little exchange of material takes place across the boundaries of the village. That's the concept of a sustainable ecosystem, and that's where we adopt that. So I think it is very much there in us. What we need to make sure, and I think that's a real challenge, is as much as we are talking about environmental pollution, I think it is also important to make sure that our traditional practices and values are not polluted. This is also a very important thing that we have to say. And I see many places, for example, now when festivals are celebrated, right? We bring in order to have economic development, many modern things, be it the Ganesha Murti or the goddess Murti, and put all kinds of artificial things. And then we are subjected to this challenge. People are saying all your religious practices or festivals are more important, are more responsible for creating pollution. But I think if you look at our traditional this thing, this is not, even if we have the Visarjan of this thing, it was only a symbolic thing, not the big this thing that is. So I think we need to make sure that all our festivals also remain very much environment friendly. And yes, we do want to bring in modern technology, science, or whatever. We also want to grow our economy, but at no point of time our traditional values and our cultural and religious practices are not contaminated, are not polluted. So as much as nature has to be prevented from pollution, our cultural and festivals also need to be prevented from the kind of pollution that we are facing. And we should be
Absolutely.
able to transfer that to the next generation very well through our education system at all stages, in the family, in the schools, in the colleges, even in the work culture that we have when we become professional, in our lifestyle. Everywhere preserving those values and making sure that they are not contaminated, they are not polluted by any means, so that we do not become the laughing stock, and we are able to give great values to the whole world, and be able to lead through our cultural and the integration of modern science and our cultural and traditional values.
Right, Dr. Professor Yutika Mishra, and for that to happen, first of all, people have to read history. History has to be taught to people of how these practices originally began and what they entailed, and as the contamination that Professor Tare is talking about, so that contamination is removed.
Exactly, and we have to recognize the uniqueness of tradition, how it can still uphold the symbol, the environmental conservation practices that we are trying to, give shape to. So this we have to understand the Indian tradition as a symbol of bringing these practices together. We can still use those that knowledge to do what we want to do today, and as we have been talking about technology modernization, these techniques, why not, that in fact the Indian tradition and Indian knowledge system is a living thing. It's a living being, as I said, and our relationship with the environment is also a living thing. It's organic. So as we grow, as civilization grows, it grows with us, grows within us, grows with the outside world. And there is a scope for integration of technology in that within our system, the Indian system. And when we do that, we also realize that there is a limit imposed on the use of resources, which we are not doing currently. Stark commercialization, the greed, human greed, unnecessary. One car, no, I need three cars. No, one dress, two, three dresses, no, I need 100 dresses. So where is it going to lead? When you use a plastic bottle, you will find it still there 100 years later. So we keep on using plastic still without any unbridled effort. So there this tradition comes in, and somehow through education system, I have full faith in that we are on that process, on that path. And I hope in the future is going to be really bright in terms of the contribution of India towards environmental conservation.
Right, that's the hope, and in fact, we're already on our way. As Shantanu Gupta has been telling us, giving us an example, aren't we, in terms of leading those global efforts? Look at, you're talking about the hottest year ever recorded in the month of the hottest week ever recorded in the month of July. This is a crucial moment for the world per se, isn't it, Shantanu Gupta? And here is India leading the way, and that's simply because India has always led the way.
I think it's exactly. I think professor have shown multiple examples, and the modern world is also doing the same. I think solar we are leading, renewable we are leading. I remember 7 8 years back, solar was considered like an elite source of energy when the rates were like 9 rupees, like 12 rupees a unit. Now they come down to normal rate of coal or any other form of energy. I think, and now I think solar panels manufacturers are multiple in India. I think 10 years back there are hardly any solar manufacturer. Everything was coming from China or Germany, but now it's plenty. And from Gujarat to Tamil Nadu to Uttar Pradesh, there are multiple solar manufacturers come up, right? So I think in technology, India is also leading. When you're talking about reuse, I remembered like a little funny anecdote. I remember growing up in UP. When we were young, this lady used to come and she used to say bartan le lo, and my mother used to come and give some old clothes and used to get this shining nice steel utensils. I used to always wonder why she is taking this old clothes and giving this nice shiny utensils. But now I realize I lived in Europe for around 3 4 years. I never saw a repairing shop. There no cobbler, no repairing shop even for a laptop or a mobile repairing shop. I think if you just realize, just think back, how many things they reuse and keep repairing till the time it's a life. So we stretch a life of a thing to a decent time, right? Be it clothes, be it gadgets, and then exchange. That's a real barter in modern times. Still in smaller towns, you can give your clothes and give those steel utensils, right? So I think these things may sound funny and maybe archaic to a modern word, but I think these are a brilliant form of reusing to the stretch of that product till we can. And we were doing it earlier. Thus, just to make these practices even more techy, maybe app based and or maybe more modern and more cool, maybe. Yeah.
Right, and in fact, talk about modern, cool, and integrating technology. The Indian system is the most scientific, to start with. So it's going to be all the more easy to integrate technology going forward, isn't it, Dr. Professor Vinod Tare? And also, Professor Yutika Mishra was talking about the Indian knowledge system. There is a real need to sort of go back and re-emphasize on it and take it forward.
I think we are very innovative in that aspect also. I think normally people say that in India things will not be so easily acceptable, new thing, computers, laptops, mobiles or whatever. But I think we have shown to the world we are the fastest in terms of adopting this, despite all our limitations. And as been said that we believe in concept of transferring. Something which I buy most modern a thing, when it becomes outdated for me, still it becomes useful for somebody else. And that is how we have a circularity in our economy in that sense, if I can talk about, right? It gets transferred from one to the other to the other. So I think those things we have to make sure that every product that we bring in, the lifetime of that product is increased as much as possible, and we utilize it to a maximum lifetime before it gets disintegrated and put back as a burden onto the environment. So I think we have to integrate these scientific principles into our values and the traditions and the practices that we have been adopting, and this is true for almost everything. Okay, and I'm sure our Prime Minister has mentioned these examples almost everywhere. That, like for example, even for cleaning purposes, we never buy a fresh pocha, right? We use cloths, and cloths are used for something else, and then unless until it comes into number of parts, then we still use it for something or the other. I think these are some of the very good practices. We should put it into a very more modern scientific perspective, and tell the people there is nothing to feel shy about it. And these are some of the good practices. Unfortunately,
in fact, you should feel proud about it. This is what is called as reuse.
As if I am a poor person, I am doing something bad and I want to hide it. I think we should take pride in saying that how we are in a position to increase the lifetime of a product before it is dispersed into the environment, and that saves the environment in a great way. So that is built in our culture and practices, and I think we should not lose that anywhere. Wherever it is possible to transfer from one generation to the other, we should not leave any opportunity to do that, whether it is in the class, whether it is in the family, whether it is in our professional things or wherever. So I think we should take pride in doing things rather than feeling shy about it or hiding such kind of things.
All right, we will leave it at that. Dr. Professor Vinod Tare, founding head, Center for Ganga River Basin Management and Studies, led by IIT Kanpur; Dr. Professor Yutika Mishra, historian from Delhi University; and Shantanu Gupta, author and TEDx speaker. Thank you all three of you for taking time out to be with us here on this TV9 Digital Baitak. And with that, it's a wrap here on this edition of My India, My Life Goals. Thank you so much for watching. This is Krishna Kumar signing off.